stop the next attack. I mean, of course, so that's a mission statement that never ends because there's always going to be somebody out there. I'm curious, it's been over crazy, almost 25 years at this point.
No, it's crazy.
Wild. It was so focused externally. And that was, I guess that was a large portion of the role that I held as well. Like we required the intelligence apparatus, the find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, the 3FEA process. I mean, I was the third F, right? The intelligence would find, fixing them in place, finishing the threshold of the door, cool. But it was overseas, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, does Iran have influence? All these things, the Middle East. I'm curious your thoughts. I feel like in those 25 years, we were relatively effective at doing that. But the talk I am hearing most common, let's call it in the last 12 months, is the next attack is coming from inside of the United States. But I'm curious your thoughts on that. I think we were relatively effective externally, but I also think now in those 25 years, I think the number one mistake people can make is to underestimate their enemy. And any enemy, that is paying attention to the U.S. and understands our capability, let's call it our kinetic capability outside of our borders. It would be a reasonable expectation that they would think, the best way to do this is actually from inside. And that's what I'm seeing now. And I'm just curious your thoughts on the threat environment. Do you think it's equally from external as it is internal? Do you think it's still more external and less internal? Where would you put it?
I think it's both. And so I have actually listen, Al-Qaeda attacked us because we underestimated them. And we failed to be creative about how they might attack us. Like full stop. That is just what we do. We are terrible at wargaming. We are terrible at being proactive. Again, I love my country. I've served my country just like you. But there are some things we have to recognize that we're bad at. And that is definitely one of them. But I have been railing about this for, almost 10 years now. And everyone gets upset with me. But listen, the next attack, in my opinion, is going to come from inside. But it's not going to look... Again, this is all just my opinion, right? Yep. I don't want to say that I have some kind of an insider track.
In your opinion, at what day and time will this happen? This is what people want from the intelligence community, because I don't want to say I argue with people online, but I might have commentary from time to time. Well, what good is the intelligence if we don't know when it's going to happen? I'm like, stop watching the movie 24.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah. And I think the way I see it is this. Back in 2000 and 2001, right? Like a pre-9/11 world, Al-Qaeda, who I now view as like the grandpa, right, of the terrorist organizations. Yes, we had the internet. Of course, we've had the internet, but it wasn't as rampant in terms of radicalization like it is today, right? People had to go to training camps in Afghanistan, go to training camps in Iraq. That's what they were doing to become radicalized and then commit these attacks worldwide. Now, because of the prolific nature of the internet, no one needs to travel anywhere to become radicalized. And ISIS, obviously, I hate ISIS, but they're brilliant at it. Yeah. And they're brilliant at targeting, and they're brilliant at using it. And that is what is happening. If you look at everything that has happened here in the U.S. that's been stopped, thank goodness, they have all been individuals who are either U.S. citizens, so natural born citizens, or people who became citizens legally, right, here in the U.S. And I think the problem, I'll just be very blunt, we don't want to feel that people we know are capable of doing these kinds of things. And so it's much easier to put that onus outside, right? And we need to, if we don't start getting out of that, the next attack, in my opinion, is going to be our fault, because we have to get out of that mentality. Now, it's not to say someone from another country wouldn't come here and commit an attack. But if you just look at what happened in Michigan and Jersey and Washington just like last week, all of those people were from here, all of them. And so I think, but all of them have been radicalized by ISIS in Syria. That's ultimately where they wanted to travel to. And so I also don't think, again, that an attack is going to sort of look 9/11 style, if that makes sense. When I was an FBI agent, it was always so much easier to track people in the U.S. who are doing big, big things, because they're going to mess up. Someone's going to mess up, right? Like somewhere in that logistics line, whatever. Al-Qaeda, ISIS all know that. And so if you look at a lot of these attacks, if we look at what happened in New Orleans, right? That was a very, I don't want to say simple, I don't want to give people ideas, but it wasn't some elaborate attack, but it inflicted a lot of damage. Same if we look at Michigan, right? Same if we
Yeah.
look at, they were just simply doing basically small arms training, is what it sounds like to me, is what they were doing to then commit those attacks on sort of this larger scale. We're not talking about hijacking planes and flying them into buildings.
Yeah, I actually have, I'm going to give some details out just for the listeners about the Michigan attack, because I was going to ask you about this. This was within, I think, the last 7 to 10 days. So far, via court filings, two 20-year-olds from Dearborn, Michigan were charged with conspiracy to transfer firearms and ammunition for terrorism, each having acquired AR-15 style rifles, shotguns, pistols, and hundreds of rounds of ammo. A third Michigan man was later arrested and added to the complaint. Investigators said he traveled with a minor to scout an amusement park roughly 3 hours from Dearborn and searched online for, is it crowded on Halloween weekend? While the arrests were made and weapons were seized, which included tactical gear, vests, GoPro cameras, firearms, etc. Authorities say no specific target or date was definitively known publicly at the time of the disruption. And it seems as if the case highlights a shift in domestic terrorism where younger perpetrators, online radicalization, use of coded language, pumpkin day, that's not super coded. I'm not trying to give anybody ideas, but if you're searching for that in October, I mean, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to bring in on this case to figure it out. Targeting of significant occasions like Halloween to maximize impact. That is definitely, it's different, like you described. And like you said, they're all here from the U.S. I can see an organization, if I was Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and again, I don't want to give anybody ideas, I wouldn't bring in a bunch of people. I would bring in key influencers and, basically force multipliers would be the term that we used to use. And you wouldn't need that many. And the stats are what the stats are in the border penetration or lack of border control for the last, we'll just call it 10 years. This administration, previous administration, it is what it is. I worry about the combination of the two. But I wonder what it takes, because to me, it's an irrational mindset to get to. I wonder what it takes for these ideas to get their hooks in these young men and women to the point where it gets to, I'm assuming these guys hit the FBI radar. I'm assuming what it takes, what those steps are. And I'm curious whether your time at the agency or the FBI, are there any similarities in the types of people that are generally more, shall we say, malleable to these ideas?
I'm actually so glad that you asked that question. So obviously I work for News Nation now. I'm their national security contributor. And we talked about this, I believe last Friday, on their show. I've read the entirety of the criminal complaint. The one thing Chris Cuomo asked me, what is like the one thing that stands out to you, is the difference in terms of what attracted these particular individuals to this. It was very fascinating to me. So typically when I was at the agency, I had the opportunity to talk to terrorists, find out why they did what they did. And what was interesting is most of the time there was for two reasons. The first was religious fanaticism, right? They had perverted the faith and were doing that. The second, though, was they had come from failed or fragile states. Al-Qaeda had rescued them, so they felt beholden to them, therefore are committing these attacks on their behalf. These guys had none of that. They talk about it multiple times throughout the criminal complaint, wanted to have Netflix documentaries made after them. Yes, that was
their underlying motivation.
Correct. And they talk about it not just once, not just twice, multiple times throughout the entirety of the complaint. And that, in my opinion, is a huge departure, because the New Orleans attacker, he didn't do that for that reason either. He was experiencing some domestic issues, instability at home, financial instability. This was new, to be honest with you, to me. And I've spent time working counterterrorism. These guys want to be infamous, famous, whatever. They want to be influencers. And I actually can understand that now. If, again, I'm pushing 50, right? But if I look in the mind of a 20-year-old now, that is how they are gauging a lot of their success, to be totally honest. That's what these guys wanted. They wanted Netflix documentaries made after them. They wanted 48 hours crime ID shows made after. I mean, really specific. And I found that to be fascinating, obviously in a bad way, but fascinating, because being internet famous is not something I value in
Yeah.
life, but it's something they clearly valued in life. And you even seem surprised by that. But that was their main motivating factor.
That is, so I'm familiar with the two
Mhm.
reasons or backstories for a lot of people who are
Right.
associated with those organizations. Another one I would maybe add to that are young children that are radicalized, not necessarily saved, but radicalized, you know, and you'd see it like in the tribal regions in Pakistan, you know, I mean, Waziristan with super heavy, religiously dogmatic mosques, and these kids that they're just so steeped in it that they don't even have a chance to develop outside of that ideology. But what you're talking about to me, that is such a jarring departure.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about that. That is, because it's like, it's not, that's like nonlinear. That's like holding out a 45-pound plate and you let go of it and it doesn't drop. Like, I don't know how to get my mind to wrap around that. I guess I can understand, you know, everybody wants to be a, well, not everybody, because I'm in the same boat as you are. I have no interest. I'm pushing 50 as well. No interest whatsoever at being social media famous. But perhaps that is the currency of the day.
I think it is.
But you want to do that through I mean, you see young women and men, like they'll do whatever, dance videos or makeup videos
Yes.
and all that stuff. But you want to take this and align that with a terrorist ideology and kill or hurt as many people as possible. I mean,